in the room. There's the screen share.
We've been using the fields up there for a number of years. As I said, the space where you see the baseball diamond kind of laid in is a grass field that we've been using for football and soccer practices going back to the 60s. The area in the front closest to Jericho Hill Road has been our rugby field, also going back probably 40 years or so. And the space where you see the potential track and field was at one time a cinder track that was left to basically to dissipate. And so there's just basically that's a grass area right now. The goal of what we're trying to do as a university and as an athletic department is to take advantage of this land that we own in ways that will help us in terms of both enrollment and retention of our students. Just this week, I had done an inventory of our competitors in the conference that we're in. And we trail our competitors pretty significantly in the areas of field space. And most of our competitors, well, all of our competitors that have track and field have an outdoor track. We do not at Alfred University. We share the track at Alfred State, Alfred State's track team. So in essence, what we're trying to do is take best advantage of land that we own, that we've been using for a long time, and try to augment the number of fields that we have with the hopes of adding several sports that will draw more enrollment to the university and put us on a more level playing field with our competitors. This is becoming more and more urgent for the university. COVID has taken a toll on us in enrollment. We're down a couple hundred students from where we were prior to COVID, and athletics has proven to be a very good tool to both draw students and retain them, and certainly the goal for the university trying to augment what we have currently at Jericho. So, and that's probably the overview, Dan, of the attempts.
Do you want to talk about your timeline briefly?
Sure. So this was presented most recently to the Board of Trustees at the May meeting. We are going to have another meeting towards the end of the month to talk about funding opportunities. We do have several $1 million already in place from philanthropic support perspective. Whether or not we move full speed in terms of, looking for more philanthropic support or looking at opportunities that we would have for augmenting that to be able to move forward is something, Dan, that I think will be happening later this summer, towards the end of this month and into July.
So you don't know if you don't have the money now.
We do not have all the money right now.
So you need more money in order to start the project, and you're going to do it in stages.
So the front side on the left of the trees is what we've been calling phase 1, and the back side phase 2. I would tell you, in a perfect world, Dan, I would like to see us do everything at once, because I think there'd be some economy of scale, and particularly in terms of when you look at the parking areas and things like that would be added. Would be nice to be able to do it once, but we'll do it in the order that we have the funding.
So how much do you think you need to start phase 1?
We would likely need a couple more million than where we are right now, whether that's we borrow or we look at philanthropic support.
Okay. I'll turn the floor over to the community for any questions, comments about the project, anything it will take, a zoning permit and a special use permit, and he was aware of that. And the input that we get from the community would frame out the special use permit. So if there are concerns or questions about it, now's the time to bring those forward. So floor is open for anyone who wants to comment or question.
Is this all that's planned, or is there more planned, since there's a couple hundred more acres there on this parcel?
That's all that's planned right now.
I have a question. If the I was wondering if the access for the public to Foster Lake is at all part of the plan for this facility.
Not specifically about this facility. However, I think the larger conversation there has been in the last 6 months about how do we work hand in hand with the property that we own, not only here at Jericho, but at Foster Lake, as well as the equestrian center. We have a very large opportunity, I think, from that perspective, and we're spending a lot of time currently actually rehabbing Foster Lake to be able to have that fully functional for both the community and our campus.
Great idea.
Thank you.
Catherine?
Go ahead, Ken.
How does the proposed acquisition of the Baker property affect these plans?
Well-
Or fit into these plans?
Sure, yeah, well, it fits in a couple ways. One of the things that, as we were going through the engineering studies, many of you who have been in or around that area knows that there's a lot of clay in the ground. Really, when the fields were built, they weren't ever really properly irrigated. And so we're gonna have to dewater the site pretty well to be able to use it in more productive ways. And part of purchasing the Baker property is going to give us more of an opportunity. We'll have more space for retention ponds and
You're
things
gonna
like
run
that
off that way.
to be able to do that, yeah.
Do you know tonight, any idea, would you have a clue of what side of the hill you would want your retention ponds on? You think?
Yeah, it'd be on the north side. So on the side towards Alfred, there would be a system set up so that all the, through the secra and the environmental requirement, there would be retention ponds or areas where that's gonna be dug out on the lower side towards Alfred. That would be, it would meet the requirements for the drainage. So there wouldn't be any drainage that would head down towards Kenyon. It would all go to that. And they would be largely evaporative.
Okay.
And still have the ability to drain and absorb into the ground.
Because we've noticed since you cleared out some of the drainage ditches now, the water flow down Kenny Road's got worse. We've lost it. I know one of the neighbors have lost.
There's stone, yeah.
Flooded out things.
So there is,
They're a little concerned with that amount of water coming off that hill, especially in the Genesee Valley water. Down there.
Yeah.
so with that purchase of that property and with the elevation changes, that system would all be drainable to the north side. So they greatly reduce anything to the Kenyon side or anything to the south.
And what are your plans for lighting?
We would be lighting not the front field, not the rugby field, but we would have plans on lighting both of the other spaces with the modern LED lighting that we installed a couple of years ago at Merrill Field. The imprint of that lighting is incredibly negligible comparative to previous lighting. I would,
That's gonna shine in our bedroom windows.
no, it's not at all. In fact, if you went to Mineral Field right now, when the lights are on, if you walk 15 feet away from the field, there's little to no light. And
There's no halo.
there's no halo.
You know, the uniqueness of those lights are they are not only the LED, they reduced that by almost 83%.
I just don't want to see the light.
No,
I think it's great, but I
I
just don't.
totally
wanna see the light.
understand, but because it's a light pollution thing that we've reduced, but we have successfully done that at almost 83% in that environment as well as on the campus.
Could you send us some samples, just to see?
I'll give you, we can definitely provide information.
What other amenities do you have planned for out here? Like bathrooms, water,
Yeah.
concession stand,
Yeah,
parking?
so the space, you can see the parking, I think, hopefully pretty clearly. I don't know if you can zoom in closer to the track.
They only let you go once, I think.
Yeah, so that grandstand that you see right there
Mhm.
next to the track would have storage, restroom facilities, and concession stand with it.
And that'll
So-
only be open when you have something going on.
Correct.
Very good.
That, and this is all scalable, nothing here is,
Sure.
in stone. That plan has seating for about 1,000 people. That's consistent with the parking opportunities there.
You're gonna park 1,000 cars or 250?
Folks that we work with base it on a percentage of vehicles. We would, at this point, our thought would be that we would be playing the odd soccer game, potentially field hockey if we had that sport. We're not going to be playing sports that are going to draw thousands of fans. For most of our games like that, you're looking, when we play at Merrifield, you might have 100, 150 fans. So we wouldn't have the infrastructure here to draw thousands of fans to an event. But we also want it to be large enough that so that, if we do have let's say a track event that's has a lot of schools coming, that we have the space.
Yeah.
Another question I have, right now, if you GPS that area
Mhm.
and Google Map for directions, it brings all the vehicles up Canyon Hill. If you go to Tall Pines, everything comes up Canyon. They don't come through Alfred where it's
Mhm.
actually shorter.
Mhm.
What's the town gonna do for the highway or the road out there to make improvements? Because if you start doubling, tripling the amount of traffic, I mean, that's gonna be wear and tear on that road and stuff like that. And what about, is there any proposals of any intersects traffic lighting up there for caution lights or flashers? And what about sidewalks? I mean, I can't imagine all the kids driving to a home soccer game.
So with regard to the Kenyon Road, that's one of the things that we would be discussing in the process of getting when they apply for a special use permit. As far as a light, that was also mentioned, we might be lucky enough to get a flashing yellow light. That would be the only thing. You'd never get a traffic light there.
Right.
DOT is pretty rigorous on that, and they'll put in a traffic light. So those are things that would be discussed and could be part of the special use permit. Good questions.
One other thing I thought about on the way down there is, like I said, what happens when you have students who walk? Because not every student has a car. How do they get, how do you propose to get students up and down from events or,
Yeah.
especially big events?
Yeah.
Maybe a big event on a Saturday or something going on, or a football, football game, baseball game.
Yeah.
My concern is having students walk up that hill. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, so we can't stop folks from walking up the hill. I live on the hill and I see people walking all the time. That said, one of the built-in pieces of this is providing transportation on it. We'll have to flesh it out, but my goal would be late in the afternoon from probably about 4 o'clock until 9 o'clock. We would provide shuttles on like about a 20 to 30 minute schedule. So that we really deter students from feeling like they need to walk. But they shouldn't be in a position where they need to walk. We provide transportation even now when we practice up there, but really for people that are just wanting to take advantage, let's say, hey, I'd like to go up and run on the track. we want to be able to deter people from feeling like they need to walk up there.
Yeah, but on the special use permit, that'll come up later because they really do need, I would like to request that we have a, I don't know what it's called, but a study of Kenyon Road done because there's so much traffic on it now. And they're traveling at highest rates of speed, even with campers and all kinds of things behind them.
Yeah, Catherine, so what will happen is when, first of all, when they're ready, you would have to apply for a zoning permit. And then they would have to apply for a special use permit, and at which time there would be a public hearing. That's part of the process. And so all of these things would be considered at that time. So it's good to get them out, talk about them at this time.
I think, I'll look into it. I think there's a way that a venue like Tall Pines can request of Google that routes to their destination be directed over a certain path.
Oh, that would be great.
I don't know what the legality, what the process is like, but I'll look into that.
We've done that at Alfred University. So we're now on the World Wide Web through Google and Bing. So now you can find any building on the campus. So that'll be added to that system.
Yeah, I'm wondering
That's not what he's talking about.
with,
No, I understand that in that adding to that system, that'll be part of it. We put in there as a request.
yeah, I'm thinking separate from your development, just to address some of the folks' concerns of traffic on Kenyon. Tall Pines, I know,
Yeah.
Kents have done some, for some of their bigger events, some manual signage to address those things, but I think some of the mapping utilities out there can be directed to.
So we'd have to
Yeah.
get Kent's to buy into that, right?
I think they would, being the owners of the destination, they would need to put in that request, yeah. Well, check into it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's good.
See whether there's a problem with it. Kenyon Road is not anywhere, it's not a shortcut, it's, I don't
Would be
understand
my
why.
first choice.
Yeah, it wouldn't be my first choice to get there. Why is Google sending people on Kenyon Road to get to Tall Pines?
It's just the way, you put in like the shortest ditch or
It
quickest
is
route.
probably
because
time.
It's neither.
Time wise, it's,
But
you don't have to come through the 30.
people from out of town.
They don't know that.
They don't know that they can just cut through town, or, they're not gonna go all the way to Andover to come back up the hill. It's like, oh, just go Kenyon, because that's what it sends you.
So from 21, it hasn't coming up Kenyon and then
Yeah,
During,
South.
86, yeah.
when COVID was in place.
Oh,
everybody
oh,
come
man,
up there,
it was $100 for, yeah,
100
we
days
counted
a
it.
day. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was just-
You know how you need to do.
Yeah. Whoa.
So there were a couple questions in the chat here, Paul.
Mhm.
Parking lot lights, Gene Cardinelli asks about that, and as well as impact on water supply and sewage.
Minimal lighting in parking lots, but certainly enough for safety. So.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have a question. So you said minimal lighting in parking lots. I thought all the lights were gonna be the fancy new LED.
Correct, but what we're talking about is lower wattage. Yeah. And maybe Tim can handle the question about water supply and sewer.
So right now, near that building, which is right here in the lower, darker building here in the lower corner, the existing building, we have a well there that was an established well. Actually, I don't know when. But I had root well drilling come up and rework that well. That well is a substantial enough well to provide for the facility as we know it. As far as sewage, once we get through the engineering, the retention and the retention ponds and drainage to the north, for everything in the wooded area here and across the bulk of the field, once that's complete, then depending on the number of bathrooms for that facility at the grandstands, which would determine the size of the leach field and the septic system and leach field. But it would be a septic system and leach field within that environment, not too far away from that grandstand area.
All heading north.
Not sure exactly where the leach field would head, but given the fact that the site is gonna be drained to the north, that leach field will have a parameter based on the engineer's research on what has to happen and where. But my guess is it'll stay center, but I don't know that 100%.
Any other questions for, about this project?
And aside from tonight's question and answer session, to the question in the chat about timeframe for community input, do you expect to have another Q&A like this closer to the time of working through the special use permit?
Well, as mentioned, we'll have to have a public hearing when the special use permit is applied for. And so I anticipate that would be the next time to have a public hearing, but if people want to submit any information or questions or recommendations to the town board, they can do that anytime they want, but the next public event would be the public hearing for the special use permit. And that would depend on when AU files their application, which would depend on when they get the money, I presume.
I assume you're looking, I mean, obviously, everything's finance dependent, but you're probably looking in the next year to two to try and begin something, or?
Yes. I think that's accurate, yes.
You could figure at this point in time, when we file for the permits and the zoning, special use, you can figure 8 to 12 months in design. With construction, approximately 12 months. We try to hit a construction sequence and start in the early spring, take advantage of the weather.
Right.
Finish up in the fall. I mean, calendar wise, that's the way to look. We can't pin that dates down.
Right.
Anything else from the board or community? Okay, I guess we'll go on to the next one. Thank you for coming. You're welcome to stay.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
everyone.
luck with your project.
Appreciate that.
Thank you all.
Good night. Okay, now next I'm going to take the next group that indicated they were coming, which would be you want to address the board?
Yes.
Okay.
First of all, I just want to say that I am not anti-gun at all. What I am is anti-firing of a gun every night, sometimes until 9 o'clock. So I got a petition together and it reads, "We, the undersigned, are concerned citizens and property owners who are tired of the constant shooting on Tilbury Road. We would ask the town leaders to set a time limit as to the time of day and the number of hours that they can shoot." Now, I've been up there 33 years, never had a problem until my neighbor moved in, be 2 years this September, and he started shooting. He never came to me and asked me if I minded or anybody else in the neighborhood. And we're just tired of it.
You want to leave that
Yeah,
with us?
I have signatures,
How many signatures do you
6.
have? Okay,
I would have had more, but there's reasons that they didn't understand it.
okay, sure.
Sir, I'd like to put in my 2 cents about all this.
Sure. What is your name, please?
I'm Mary Cotton,
Okay,
live
Mary.
on Tilbury Road,
Okay,
and it's been very quiet there, peaceful. When my husband and I moved up there 20-some years ago, we thought it was the most peaceful road to live on. We have good neighbors. Some of them have been there, as Ann has, for years. Raised a family. I and Joe moved in up there about 20-some years ago. And we thought it was a great place to live. And then all of a sudden, like she said, we were never informed, never asked what we thought of the idea.
they just went ahead and done what they wanted to do, set up for gun practice and all that stuff. That's unfair to that people that lived on that road. I came home one day and there was traffic, or a lot of cars and trucks right along where their driveway is on the other side of the road. Now, that road is not that wide. And for them to be there, that's dangerous. Secondly, we have a lot of deer crossing the road. We have kids that ride four-wheelers that go right on that road, which I wish they wouldn't, because that's very dangerous too. But to get back to the other, I can witness that when we're in, even in our house, and usually people come up our driveway, we don't hear them going up. But all of a sudden, we have all kinds of gun sounds around our house. Now, our neighbor, just over at the bank down from us, that Kevin and Kathy O'Buckley's, we have talked about this, and they told me that they were eating one day, and all of a sudden, there was somebody out shooting, and it sounded like they were right in their yard, shooting a gun. And it scared them, because there's a lot of things going on in the world today. You don't know what's going on. And to be shooting late at night, I have been taking my animals out, or even Joe and I go and come back home, get out of the car, and we could hear gunfire. Now, for a peaceful valley there, to having people coming in all of a sudden, and no one has come to us and suggested that that's what they like to do. Ask us what hours it would be good to have these shooting things. People go to bed early on this road. I'm not one of them, but I can tell you, I've been up sometimes at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, because when my husband's up, and the cats and our dog now running around, I can't get no work done. So I do it from 12 o'clock on. And that, it's not fair. It's just not fair. There's a lot of acreage around different places that can bought and set up there. I mean, I grew up around a family up on Jersey Hill. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that or not, but I grew up there, and my dad had guns. But not like kids today, we weren't, let me tell you, because my father, if he ever caught us touching a gun, that he had just leaned into a corner, we'd have probably got our butt kicked. And good spanking for it anyway, and that didn't hurt us. We grew up knowing about that. I just think it was very on dignity, I guess, of doing something without not coming and asking people what their intake would be if they had it down there. It shouldn't be there. That fire sound goes right up through the valley. You can hear it up there. Eddies have mentioned to me about hearing it. And I just think it's wrong. And I think we're showing the kids, hey, if you want to shoot, keep your gun, you can shoot anywhere you want to. Too bad people don't like it.
Well, there's a shooting range over on 244 that they could use.
Yeah, and I just think that, we're not setting a good example to anyone. And with all the problems of the schools and kids that don't get the care that they're supposed to get from parents, I blame a lot of these shooting things goes back to the parents. First of all, if you got a lot of guns, you don't leave them around the house. You put them in something and lock it up. and you throw away keep you have to.
That's good, that's good. Look, I think we'll just keep this centered on the issue here on Third
Okay,
Valley Road.
But I think that's not showing a lot to young kids, and we do have young kids on their road
Mhm.
and animals. And it would be just have been nice and polite to come to the house and ask them, tell them what they're thinking they'd like to do, get an input onto it. And what time would be good for them. That's the way it should have been done, and it wasn't.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else want to comment on this issue? I think it's good that you've come to address the board, because I don't think the board is aware of this issue. Now, as it turns out, one of our board members, Ken, is running this. Maybe, do you want to tell us what your operation is and what, as you see it, what's going on there?
Sure. First, can I ask, what are there hours proposed on the?
I don't have any hours. I am just tired of you shooting every single day, all day. On Saturdays, you have your gang come up. One day is plenty. You don't have to be out there shooting every single day until 9 o'clock at night.
Okay, well,
And you're right on my line. And you know you are.
okay. So let's not blow it out of proportion, because it's not every
I'm
day.
not.
It's not daily. Okay. So do you have a proposed time for morning and evening that you're looking at?
Yeah, I don't think they have to shoot from maybe morning, stop for a while afternoon, and then they're shooting again until nighttime. When there's people are
Do you-
going to bed.
Okay, do you have a time in the morning, a minimal time in the morning that you're looking at?
You should ask her.
No, I haven't got a time.
Okay, do you have a time in the evening?
I don't think you need
You
to
had,
be.
you had
shooting.
mentioned 9 o'clock. I guess that's because that's when it gets totally dark in the summer. So are you proposing some
I think a
times?
couple hours in the afternoon, not after dinner and not on Saturday and Sunday, except for I know you have your group that comes up there on Saturday, but you don't have to do it all day. And then when they leave, you're out there later on shooting even with stronger guns. I'm not a gun person, so I don't know what,
Sure. Okay.
but it just gets louder and louder as the day goes on.
Right, so my history is that for 25 years, I was up in Syracuse as a
Yeah,
police
I know
officer,
you.
and I got into competitive shooting in a fairly big way. The competitive shooting that we get into is mostly center fires, but that has morphed over into 22s for the most part now. So our own property, because my wife and I and my brother, we go all over the Northeast and we compete all over PA and Ohio and stuff with our long guns. So what you're hearing with the long guns is us developing new loads for our rifles, testing them, setting them in, practicing on targets out to 500 yards on our own land, on our property, off of barricades, because that's how we compete. So what you're hearing with the center fires is our practice that we do to get better to compete, because we are national competitors. We compete in the Northeast sector. And then for the Saturdays, we hold one competition a month on a Saturday for 22s. So it's just 22 long rifle. Nobody is using a supersonic round out of the 22. They're all subsonic, so they're below the speed of sound. So I know when I'm inside my own home and when Jason's inside his own home, he can barely even hear the 22s going off at the firing line. You probably actually hear more of the impact of the 22 bullet actually hitting the steel, the little ting, than you actually do of the actual shot from the 22. So, and those are one Saturday a month. We do in the summertime, we have a couple special matches that we do. So in a couple of months, there'll be 2 shoots a month. But again, that's with 22s. So that does not carry anywhere near as far as the long rifles. And those matches are very controlled, very safe. And they go from, people start showing up at 7:30 in the morning. We start the match at 9, and it goes until usually around 1:30, and that's
Let me ask
over.
you, do you charge for this?
The only thing we charge for that is just a range fee to cover our costs involved. It's not a money-making or retail
You
operation.
don't think so?
I'm sorry, what?
You don't think that it's a money-making thing?
Absolutely not.
Because you have to have a permit for that, right? It's a business,
It's not a business.
but it's going to be a business, isn't it?
No, we have no plans of making this into a business or any larger than that. Or we have no plans of opening up into any sort of membership thing like a rod and gun club. Absolutely not. There's the Alfred Rod and Gun Club for that. And the only reason that we don't take our shooting to the Alfred Rod and Gun Club is because their longest target is only 150 yards. They do not have the facility necessary for us to either practice or shoot the 22s, because our 22s go out to 350 yards for that competition. It's long range shooting, which for 22 is up to 350. So there's no other facility, no other rod and gun club. And if there was a rod and gun club in the area that had a facility that we could use that met our requirements, we would do it. And I searched high and low before finally opening up in the backyard. So
What about when you have these on Saturday, you say you start at 9, you stop at 1, and then you start up again in the evening?
the competitions go from 9 a.m. until usually 1 to 2 o'clock. And now open range, guys get their open ranges from 07:30 to 08:30, so guys can plink and check their dopes and stuff in the morning for an hour. We then break, and then the competition starts at 9. That's over. After that, what you're hearing after that is right, my family. That's us. And every now and then a couple of the guys will practice with us. But that usually doesn't last any
The
more.
rest of us neighbors, I can't have my friends up on, Saturday afternoon, sit on the porch, enjoy the birds. I mean, you're out there shooting all the time.
Okay, so I'd like you,
For 33 years, I've lived up there and haven't had any problems with any of my neighbors until you moved in.
okay. So the gentleman across the street from us on 244 shoots his large caliber pistol in his backyard onto the hill. My brother has been shooting for over 25 years in his backyard next door
I have
to where I'm
never
at.
heard Jason shoot until you moved in.
Okay, well,
That's the truth.
he shot there all the time out his backyard.
Well, I can't hear from his backyard.
Yeah,
So
do
why don't you go
you,
in his backyard and shoot?
does, okay. Who, do you know who it is up the hill from all of us up the hill that shoots? Is it
I
one
know
of
what you're
the,
talking about.
do you know what that is?
I don't know where he is. I've heard him go out and shoot,
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, a lot of dogs around the neighborhood are barking.
Right.
I give you that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, it's still,
oh, I know
I
our volume is more. I'm not disputing that. I'm just wondering who that is up the hill that's shooting
I
too.
don't know his name, but I'm telling you, I think he should, we've had him cops go up there. Okay, the town cops involved, and he told him he cannot be shooting a gun like this.
Where's he at?
He's up on 244.
They're on 244.
Yeah, and you can hear him when he's shooting over towards us. I know though when it's you shooting or over there.
Yeah,
And
because of the sound direction. And you're higher up on a hill, right?
on Terry Road.
Yeah, you're higher up
I'm right up by that curve. that
by the
goes
curve.
over to lake.
Okay, how much bleed over do you get from the Rod and Gun Club when it's active?
We don't get any,
You don't hear it coming up over the hill?
no.
So when I'm hearing it coming up over the hill, it's not the Rod and Gun Club. It's the other guy we're talking about further up 244 that's shooting, that we don't know who it
I
is.
don't know. Oh, I know when he's shooting the difference. I know because
Right.
we're almost directly across from him.
Oh, yeah.
And and he shouldn't be doing it because cars driving up and down that hill, you know, Ricker Street, and it's happened.
It's happened.
For, well, I don't know if it's happened around here, but other
Can.
places, hunting, you know, it's when people are out hunting. And I have nothing against deer hunting, because, well, we wouldn't been having much food to eat if my father wasn't out there shooting guns.
Mhm.
So I just don't think it's, you know, and I've called the cops a couple of times, because sometimes then 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock heats, we hear, it, and we can hear them arguing. Oh, yeah, it carries right across that valley.
Hmm.
And we're in the spot where I guess we get it all. And it's not fair, you know, and I called the cops on them at different times. And we can hear the fireworks when if 4th of July. They're not real loud in our yard, but you can hear them. And we're right where we get at the hearing of everything.
Mhm.
Just asking, thinking this out loud,
Sure.
asking out loud. Do any outdoor ranges like yours have any sound deadening construction around the?
Physically impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. The only thing that would stop any of that is if New York State were to allow suppressors. Right now, you can hunt legally in 45 states with suppressors on your firearms. And New York State and a couple others like California are basically the holdouts that are not allowing suppressors. If this state allowed suppressors, then you'd have a lot of suppressed fire and you would hardly hear a darn thing. Still a little bit of noise, but you
What
know,
about the ping when you hit the target? Is there anything you can do about that?
that's just a bullet hitting steel. So it creates a ping feedback. So there's nothing you can do about that. And that's not the majority of that's quick and doesn't really carry that far. So I know they can hear it. Do you hear any of the pings you replace?
Well, I don't listen for them. But,
Right, so she's not hearing up there, she's hearing next door, and the guy across the street from us on 244 can hear the pings off the steel, but they don't carry anywhere near as far as a gunshot. Now, the 22s aren't carrying. The 22 are barely carrying at all. You can't hear a 22 rifle going off much past 150 to 200 yards away.
What about those bombs you
So,
set off?
No.
Yes.
Okay,
I was home one night and I
Correct.
heard it.
not me.
Who was it? It was in your yard.
No, it was not.
Yes, it was.
Okay,
I know it was.
okay,
Keith, I
Slow
do
down.
know.
it's Ken.
Ken, I'm sorry.
Slow down. Okay, that was my brother. I wasn't even home.
Okay.
Okay, and that was in his field and his yard, and that was his son's high school graduation party last year.
That's some
The-
party.
I agree. I heard about it. The police were called, the police showed up. Hey, listen, there was a lot of stuff going on that day, but I wasn't even, actually, I was out of town at a rifle
And I
competition.
apologize.
That's okay. I understand. I understand that you're frustrated.
My windows just red.
I understand that, but this is what it's not just me in the area, right? I understand. I'm not trying to deflect, okay? I'm just saying. But I would encourage you, because it's not daily, right? Because I still work. We're out of town a lot of weekends on competitions. When we're out of town on competitions, there's absolutely no firing going on because we're gone. There's, the only time that we go late at night at all is, and late at night would be until dark, where I can still see my target. So there's some nights when I'm out there, if I'm shooting until 8:30 or 9, it's one rifle on the line on my bench. It's me firing at a 100-yard target because I'm confirming a load because I have a deadline because I have a competition coming up that weekend.
You don't have to be out there at 9 o'clock at night.
Okay. So I just explained to you why though. If I do that, that's why. Okay. So I want to encourage you to maybe keep a log of when you're hearing the shots, right?
Okay, I can do that.
And just give yourself a little bit more reality so you're not seeing it just through frustrated eyes, because I'm letting you know it's not daily. And the competitions that we have are only 1 or possibly in the summertime 2 Saturdays a month, and most of that's 22. So when we break out our center fires, We're doing a lot more dry fire practice now, which is firing a gun, click, click, with no ammo in it, right? We're doing a lot of that because the ammo is more expensive now. So we're doing a lot more practice with dry firing. But when we do practice out there, yes, it could last half an hour to an hour of us practicing out there on our targets.
Is there a time at night that you would be willing to say you would stop?
That's why I asked.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not unreasonable.
Now, I think if.
I'm
if
just,
we could have
that's
a-
why I asked if they had a, you know,
Is there a cutoff time that would make you feel much better about this? Like if he said he wouldn't be out there past 8 o'clock at night?
After 7,
7,
I'd compromise and say 8.
8? Can you live with 8?
I could, but it's just,
I mean, you know, in the winter
No, but
time,
I'm-
you know, in the
I'm
winter
getting
time, I'm
friends
not gonna be out there after 4 o'clock
I'm
because it's
having
dark.
my friends in and I want to do something, I gotta listen to you. And my friends have to, and it takes away the enjoyment of sitting out there and having a nice conversation and listening to bang, bang, bang.
Mhm.
I'm just tired of it. I really am. You've just pushed me right over the limit. You really have.
Is 8 o'clock something we can live with as a compromise?
I'm more concerned about her. She lives right next door and she goes to bed, you know, early and she's got friends. You know, they don't come up because they don't want to sit on a porch and listen to somebody shooting, so it's more for her. And I think that she has a reason to be upset with the whole thing.
I understand.
Mhm.
7:30,
7:30.
7:30?
Hey, you gotta give a little.
Oh,
And don't tell me you're giving a lot, because you aren't.
no, I never said I was giving one.
There's a balance, because we all own land,
Yeah, we all own
I
property.
own land
whether
too.
it's the university, changing how roads are used, whether it's how the neighbors use their land. You know, it's part of the
Yeah,
challenge of
but
community.
this
We all have-
never was going on until.
Well, I understand that, but land changes
That's not-
hands.
That's not fair to her because they
Well,
never even, you know, even talked to her
I understand that.
and explain to her things going on, or give her a chance to say, well, could you not play or be shooting?
Maybe you're one of the ones that come up and shoots with him, right?
No, he does not.
Okay, I just thought maybe. you might
Please,
be.
listen, please.
But that's not really the issue. The issue
You
is
pushed me too far, I'm sorry.
But
everybody has their own right
be
to how
reasonable.
they use their property.
I am being reasonable, you're the one that isn't. I said 7:30, you couldn't give him an answer on that, could you?
Ma'am.
You just rolled your eyes, don't ma'am me.
I did not roll my eyes. I did not roll my eyes. I looked down. I'm staying composed. I'm just asking you, you just accused one of my fellow board members
I
of
said,
being in
"Is
on
he-
it.
Are you one of the ones that shoot with you? And he said, no. So I have a right to ask him a question.
So we will do our best to refrain from shooting after 7:30, but the only reason that could pose a problem is because Jason works late. He's a busy contractor. He works late. And if it's on a day where we're actually leaving town on a Friday to go to a Saturday shoot out of town, then, and he doesn't get home from work until 6 o'clock on a Thursday, and we have to make sure his rifle's in good working order, then we might be out on a Thursday night until 8 o'clock, just sighting his rifle and making sure it's all good to go for the competition. Usually we'll fire all 3 rifles, make sure they're good to go, and then pack up and be ready for the next day. But that's not a ton of rounds either. It's not like we're out there blowing off 50 rounds when we do that, you know?
So you're willing to agree in most cases,
yeah.
7:30, there might be an exception, but 7:30?
Yeah, we're keeping it down to a dull roar. We're not out there
Okay.
blowing 50, 60, 100
I
rounds.
think we're being
It's not
reasonable
going on.
here.
And no Sundays. You shouldn't be shooting on Sundays
Why not?
because it's a day of rest.
Right.
The day her company comes to Beaver for
Mhm.
her. I mean, yeah, I know you got business that you have to do, but on the other hand, on a Sunday, you have to realize that's a day that she has company. She's not young anymore.
Mhm.
And, you know, she needs company, people to come to her house too, and they're not gonna come if that's all they're gonna hear when they come,
Yeah.
so.
Is there a system we could set up whereby when you know you're gonna have company and you don't want that to be disturbed, that you could notify me?
No, I'm sorry.
A simple phone call?
Sundays, I don't think
text.
you need to shoot on Sunday. There's just too many guns and too much shooting and too many deaths. And little kids getting shot up.
Okay, well, you're
And
going
they
way
came-
beyond the
they were
purview of this
shot.
meeting or
Those
your
kids-
complaint.
Those kids were killed that day. You were out there that night shooting. What kind of a person does that?
Okay, let's not talk about issues beyond
I
what
know,
we're dealing
you're
with
right,
here.
Dan, but I've just lost it. I'm sorry. I
Okay,
apologize.
so, okay, we're agreed 7:30 at night.
Sure.
And what is the deal on Sunday? You don't have guys in on Sunday?
Oh, no. All our stuff, because we have church on Sunday, if we're gonna go out and practice it all on Sundays, it's my wife and I for half an hour on a Sunday afternoon, if it's a really nice day.
So
Max.
there's no.
No,
group.
no, there's never anything, not even, like I said, it'd just be her and I and possibly my brother, but usually he's got something else going on Sundays. So we're not sitting out there on Sundays and blasting rounds. on a
Can I
regular
ask you
basis.
a question?
Sure,
On the Rod and Gun Club up on, Henry Road,
yeah,
I understand that you said that there is nothing available or two people to go there to do shooting or anything, practicing.
Mhm.
But yet, I understand you got, so women can go up there and target practice and all that, and they are advertising that they can go up there, and it's $100 a head for people to go up
It's-
there.
you're talking about the course that I just advertised for the NRA's Women on Target course at the Almond Rod and Gun Club? Right?
Yeah.
Right, because I am, my wife and I and my brother and my father are NRA certified firearms instructors. And so this year, we have 2 firearms courses. One is a Woman on Target course at the Almond Rod and Gun Club. The next one is October 1st. That's a basic pistol course. And that will most likely also be the Almond Rod and Gun Club. If we can't work out with their schedule, we're looking to Alfred, because we are partnering with local rod and gun clubs for those courses. That's not at my house.
The Rod and Gun Clubs.
That's at the Rod and Gun Clubs.
Yeah, I know.
You have to understand that for 25 years, I was one of the people responding to the very calls that you're talking about and defending citizens from the very calls that you're talking
I have
about.
3 cops in my family that do the same thing.
Understood,
that you're doing,
understood.
But they don't shoot every day.
That's their prerogative.
I know.
Okay, but I stay sharp. I practice. Okay, this is my background. This is what I do. Okay, I am still just as sharp as I was when I was active. Okay, this is just things that we do. And now I'm an instructor. Do I instruct in our backyard? No, that's not the deal. When we do NRA instruction, we use a rod and gun club. It helps the community out. It helps the gun club out. It helps everybody out.
Everybody. that-
So
But.
you won't hear any of that fire unless you can hear gun fire all the way from
Well,
Almond.
if you're talking Elman, no, but how the people in Elman gonna like it when you get?
It's at the Almond Rod and Gun Club
I
here.
don't know where that is.
All right.
But you said you don't charge, but you are charging, from what I understand.
That there is a whole different deal. That is a training course so
It's offered at the Rod.
it's at the Rod and Gun Club, but that is the business portion of what I do, right? I am starting a training business portion of it, but those trainings are occurring at the local Rod and Gun Clubs. The reason that's going on there is because those trainings do not require any long distance at all. Those are very short range trainings, nothing past like 25 yards with new shooters. So because of that, we're holding that at a Rod and Gun Club that already has the noise established there already, right? So we're using Almond, we're looking at Alfred, but again, that's short range. The only reason that we utilize our backyard is because we don't have the ranges necessary at a Rod and Gun Club. If we had a Rod and Gun Club in the area that had 400 yards, 350 yards to shoot, we'd be there. We wouldn't be in my backyard. We'd be at the Rod and Gun Club. But there's no facility in the area that has it. It doesn't exist.
There's no land around at all that you could start a new rod and gun club? Yes.
Property for sale that I could buy to start something like that, I don't know. I mean, that's, to buy property like that, I mean, I'll start a GoFundMe page, but that's $250,000 to buy a set of land to shoot on, and then, so, and again, I'm not starting a rod and gun club. I don't have memberships, it's my place. My monthly shoots for the 22, I charge $10. And that covers my cost on replacing targets and just my costs. I'm not making any money on that. It's just enough. In fact, I'm in the hole over $2,000 just on the equipment I bought for these matches. So, it's not, the business isn't there. The business end of it, I'm taking out of my property and taking it down the street to the rod and gun clubs on the training. So what you're seeing for that $100 fee.
I'm not seeing, I'm just.
Okay.
Informed.
Yeah, so what you got informed of was an actual NRA Women on Target course. It's not a course that I designed. It's an NRA course, but I am an NRA instructor. So I'm giving that course, but there is a cost to it. And there's a lot of costs that go into, there's a lot of expenses that go into giving that course too. So.
Dan,
Yes,
I don't want to take up any more of your time. I
Okay.
mean, there's other people here that got things they want to talk about,
okay.
but I appreciate you giving me the time to talk.
Well, I'm glad you came, and I think we made some progress. I think we've compromised here. We didn't get everything we want, but I think
Well, that's what compromise is.
everyone's unhappy.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have other guests. Dale, do you want to address the board?
Yes, please. And along with Keith, is he still here?
Yeah.
So it's been many months since we've heard anything about the property across the street.
Right.
And, we have concerns.
What's going on there?
We don't, there apparently doesn't appear to be anything. Do you folks know anything?
They didn't pay their taxes.
They did not. Well, I know they're in repairs on a heating bill for $1,000.
Well, maybe. The last communication we had with them was from our town attorney indicating that that was no longer grandfathered and not be occupied, the trailers, that is. And we've heard nothing, and that was almost a year ago. Wow.
At least 6 months.
Yeah. So we don't know any more than we did at that time. But now Jen says that their taxes are in arrears.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're paying, unless they pay them since they went to the county.
Is anybody living in the house?
No,
No, and nobody's mowing the lawn, and it looks trashy.
it's up over my knees again.
Hmm.
So I would just tell you that for 4 more years, the property was mowed once or twice a year. I mean, it looked awful over there. Today, yesterday, the grass was up over my knees. It hasn't been mowed this year.
Okay.
Every morning we get up and we look out the window and there's this mess across the street. There's dilapidated trailers. One trailer last winter, the wind blew the end panel, vertical siding off of it. You can look right through
Okay, now that's a violation because we do have New York State Building Code. And property maintenance law requires that all structures are enclosed and weatherproof. So
Can you help us out on
we
that?
can certainly send the code officer up there.
Keith and Linda and I know the rest of the neighbors would appreciate it. So I guess my thought is the area is designated as an R1 district. And I've been over this before. Those trailers were dumped in there the night before the town ordinance went into effect.
they weren't legal, but the town board just, they just wouldn't do anything about it. But the residents on Waterwalls Road take pride in their property, mowing their lawns, maintain flower gardens, keeping their homes in good condition. The property across the street is a disgrace, unmowed lawns, trailers with siding ripped off and showing through the opposite window. The house had broken windows on the second story. I'm curious, is any of the board members have any of you ever driven up and seen this?
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Big pen up there.
Drive by on a tractor, so it's a slow ride.
We'll blow the horn.
How does it look to you?
Pretty bad.
I mean, it's,
What's,
Well, we've got two violations from
Yeah.
what you said. One, you have to keep the grass, can't be more than 10 inches high. And secondly, the property maintenance law says you have to have an enclosed structure and has to be waterproof. So we can send the code officer up. It looks like if no one's there, we'll just be contacting the owner of record about the violations.
so who is that? The people that hold the
Still-
mortgage or Jose?
It's still Jose, to my knowledge. There hasn't been any sale that I'm aware of.
But I don't think it's actually his name.
It's in an LLC.
So LLC,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll,
In Miami.
I think you're right. So we will contact the owner of record and take it from there.
We really appreciate this, so.
The other thing you could do would be to watch the tax sale.
I was gonna say, how long does it have to be delinquent on taxes?
2 years, I
2 years.
think. Yeah,
That's where it goes to.
And how long has it been?
just
This
1 year.
So he left was in August, middle of August. Oh, I'm sorry.
This is only the first year.
You might want to start a GoFundMe page.
To buy it up when it goes up. And just so you know, we don't have a mechanism in place in the town for like routine inspections. We don't have anyone, they respond to complaints.
Okay. we can come
So,
down.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah, so definitely get on the phone and call, would it be town hall? Is that what they call?
Yeah, but we can let Steve know.
We will, this is-
Yeah, we'll let Steve know right
This is
now.
a formal complaint.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but anything in the future, definitely call and you can get the officer to
Could
respond.
somebody let us know where this is going, so.
We'll keep, yeah.
I
I'll
know
use
you've had
contact.
at least one executive session that discussed this. And the executive sessions are important, but when the people who are so directly involved in this and have been for years, just are left in the cold without knowing what's going on.
Actually, we've not had any, no executive session on this issue.
Really?
Really.
I was told by one of your ex-board members you did have one, so.
I think we've had one many.
Oh, but not
When we got-
recently. We've
when we
had a
got
couple
that letter.
recently.
Right,
within
about the
last 2
letter,
months.
yeah.
I thought you
Yeah.
were referring to
Oh, the litigation.
No, I just
piece of it.
hold,
Yeah.
since Jose. has
Oh, okay,
moved to-
yeah, I'm sure we probably did back in those days.
Yeah, there
But I
was-
think we've tried to keep, abreast of what's going on there and enforce the regs as necessary, and we'll do that now.
That would be great.
Sure, thanks for coming
What'd you
in.
say?
Oh, I said over the litigation component of it, I think is what would have been discussed in
Exactly.
executive
Right.
session, but we definitely try to keep everything that can be public. on this.
Well, anything you can do would be appreciated.
When you're finished. When you're finished, I have.
Oh, okay. Anything else on this?
No,
Okay,
No.
all right, thanks for coming.
Thank
in.
you so
much.
I didn't warn you of this, but hearing their complaint, may I make a formal complaint about the trailer across the street from our house?
Sure, go ahead.
Its windows are broken, and the grass is definitely more than 10 inches high,
Who's the owner?
and there's animals and everything in there.
It was 2 acres.
It was Sue, and it's back to your question. It's been empty for years, and it's been in the
Yes.
testing for 2 years, and it still looks like that.
And they just left stuff in the yard.
Yeah, it's totally dangerous, and
She's passed.
Where's this
away.
located?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
2 or 3 years
It's in
in.
her estate.
What's the location, please?
Kenyon Road across from Cindy McLaughlin. I'm 5211, so it's the first property on the left after the AU
Okay.
driveway, and it's a
Picture
trailer up
anything in
in
there,
there.
wasn't
There's a trailer, it's been there forever.
Oh, okay. How far off the road is it?
This room,
Oh, that close, huh?
yeah.
I don't travel Kenyon Road enough then.
Don't start.
It's the first.
And when I do travel it, I don't go over like 45 miles an hour down through there because that corner at the bottom is a bad corner.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
I thank you very much for listening to my.
Well,
Thank you very
to
much.
let you know, the ownership of that is tied up in the state.
Yes.
And
I don't think we can even wait people on the property.
It is up in the state.
There are people who want to buy it, but they go to get back. The tax office will get back.
I know.
Is it going up for tax sale?
it's true.
Supposedly, the paperwork.
You probably should go
Yeah,
too.
it's supposed to, yeah. Yes, it was by April 13th was the deadliest.
But then no tax auction has been set
How
yet.
long does it take before they auction off that property?
2 years.
But
2 years.
because of COVID, we haven't had a tax.
Yeah.
So everything's on.
Darn, that would explain why I never got paid.
Did you?
You want to address the board?
Yes,
Who are you?
I'm with Delaware River.
Dan.
Nice, okay.
Are you Dan?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been a while.
You have a beard now.
I got out of that.
Okay.
Okay, we've got, can
I
we
guess I
move
should
on to the
not
next
got out of that.
agenda item?
Yes.
Okay,
have.
We had no idea we were gonna have all these people. So.
okay, we have, I want to, moving that we adopt local law number 1, which is the moratorium, which was, on which we had the public hearing tonight. Is there a second to that motion?
A second.
Right, discussion? All in favor, aye? Okay, that is adopted.
I did.
We had a double second. Okay, you all got a copy of the minutes electronically. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Ian moves. Second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Great. There's no police report because we're out of sync with the village and that'll come up next week. Do we have a code officer?
Yeah.
And now I want to go to the highway.
He's been busy.
Report.
It looks like it.
Dan, if you want to get it done, I only live 5 minutes up the road.
He's gonna take a long, and Dwight's on, yeah, when
Yeah,
this
I-
starts, it's
I
gonna
just
be a
get up
long
and
time.
go.
We're gonna give you your
I was
time.
getting ready to.
We're gonna be here till 9. And I still have to go home and shoot. I'm joking. Sorry, I just couldn't resist. It's my sense of humor, I just couldn't resist that. I would not have done that if she was still here.
Okay, the code report, so we got, something on, okay. San Cali's property there, which is the old reading room, metal roof inspected. Kelly Snyder's new home. Okay, we're gonna have to look at the response from the Hassel regarding T-Mobile. New owners on Sugar Hill, want to put cows back up in the field.
Where's that?
Sugar Hill.
Sugar Hill is,
Well, I know where.
Okay.
Where are the cows? Where's?
The only thing I've heard up on Sugar Hill is that the building that's owned by Jason Rod, that there's a purchase offer on, but I don't know anything about cows on the field.
Cows in it?
it would be the Alfred State Tech Farm cows for grazing.
There's no fence.
But this says new owner.
There isn't any fence.
There's not any fence
Yeah,
anymore.
I have no idea.
Huh. I know they hay it.
It's all turned into fields.
It's all turned into haying fields. And I know the state leases those and hay
It's not
takes the
new
hay.
owner, So.
Yeah.
That might be, could be a misunderstanding, Steve's doing
Clarify that.
Yeah, that'll have to be clarified. Okay, still looking for stamp plans for Tom Nardi. Property on Cornelius. Oh my God, this is the same one we've been dealing with.
Mhm.
Oh,
Building
this
two
is-
metal
I
pole
thought
barns
that-
without permits.
I thought the best way and it changed ownership. Yeah.
What the guy did.
Crosswalk laws.
Not in the.
Does he not know how to
or-
use,
It's just that.
does he not know how to use the Allegheny County GIS system
No.
on our property owners?
It's on the lot. Guys from Buffalo.
not curious.
Yeah.
Okay, any comments on the code report? All right, I'm gonna skip to the highway report. Bob, you're on. What do you have anything for us?
No. We did both the shoulder, we helped the county out, cost of millions, we helped county out. We took the ones we were. Turning in the shop. and then trying to figure out how to change the service to the road. All that, so we had just, because it's kind of out of me, so.
Where do we stand on the parking lot paving? I know you've got some
I'm kind
grading
of still
up.
waiting to hear back from them there. We'll see what they're trying to finish things together.
You have it pretty much graded out the way you want it?
I gotta drop it some more, but I didn't want to go too much, because I don't want to leave it,
Right.
so.
Gonna swimming pool.
Put
Yeah.
millings on, sure.
Huh?
Can you put some millings up on?
Yeah, I fixed them too. I knew I forgot something.
Where are things at with the, mower attachment?
Probably won't see it until probably September.
Have we figured out one?
Yeah, through Diamond, it's just everything's on, you know how it's going.
Yeah.
Do we-
Everything's-
Do we already have a tractor?
Yeah, traction, I'm using it.
It's used, I can use, okay.
Yeah, I'm using the whatever mower I got, and plus I'm using it for Ridge Road, so
How's it working out?
so far, so good.
All right.
I don't want to jinx anything.
It's new.
It's new, so.
Okay, what I would like to do now is go to Delaware River Solar. And we have Dwight on, right?
Yep, hello, everyone.
Yep, and we have Dan is here with from Delaware River. And in your folder, you have the proposed host community agreement. Okay. We've all got this packet?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dwight, walk us through this and then we can get Dan to comment if necessary. You had initially some uncertainty about a portion of this, which was subsequently resolved. So you want to talk to us about this?
Sure, so in the, the host agreement, I guess just in general terms, is an alternative form of payment to the town associated with the project. So Allegheny County IDA has a policy so that the town gets a higher proportion of the revenue from the solar projects of requiring a host agreement in conjunction with a pilot agreement for the solar projects. And so, the end result is that the town ends up with, I guess, roughly a 40 or 50% share of the overall revenue from the project instead of what you would normally get from a pilot, which I think varies from town to town, but usually is kind of in the 10 to 20% range. So this is a rather standard agreement form. It's similar to other projects that Allegheny County's used. It's quite similar to the one that I was involved with in the town of Burns for a similar sized project. There was one item that I had concern with in the termination clause, section 3.1. I had some concerns about how there's a condition of termination C there, and Dan and I discussed it with his attorney, and we agreed that because of the way the pilot is structured, that the termination provision in C that I was concerned about could be deleted. So essentially, the agreement can only be terminated if the underlying pilot agreement is also terminated, which generally I think are 15-year terms, or if all the payments are made, which is over the course of 15 years. So those are the only two situations where there would be a termination of the agreement.
Okay, so what is the amount that they're proposing to pay in this host community agreement?
I believe the amount that was discussed in the email was 2,500 per megawatt, but you said Dan is there, I think? You can confirm that.
And that is correct, right?
And that is a similar amount as other projects. I think that's been about the going rate for the host portion of the overall revenue. I don't know what numbers they're talking about on the pilot side of it. I have not heard those numbers yet.
But I had a question for you because I'm new to this whole pilot and host community agreement. The term being 15 years, is that standard for a pilot or is that standard for solar, or where does that number come from?
That is standard for a pilot from the IDAs. That's like the typical minimum number and it comes from several places. I think the IDAs have that as their kind of their base term of the agreement. There's a property tax law 487 that provides for a property tax exemption, but in lieu of that, the towns can negotiate a pilot, and there the maximum term is 15 years. The IDAs have flexibility to go beyond 15. So if there's a desire from the developer and or the IDA standpoint to go beyond that, I know that's been entertained, and I'm speaking very generally. I know that's been entertained before. I know it's been talked about on some of the larger projects. I don't know if they've done that on the 5 megawatt ones, but if there's an interest in that, I think it could be discussed with the IDA.
Once you get past that 15 years, does it then just become taxable at current value?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And there is a new methodology for calculating the full assessed value for solar, although there's some legal issues pending right now, but there was a recently passed statute last year, and there was a new methodology or a standard methodology for assessing the projects that was developed by New York State Tax and Finance. Like I said, there's some litigation about that, but it establishes what's called an economic kind of a revenue model for the projects, as opposed to, it's not based on the capital cost of the project, like say some other types of buildings would. It's more based on the revenue that the project's expected to receive. So it's actually quite a bit less than the project capital cost would be.
Right. Does that, I'm curious from your experience, do you know if around 15 years that value typically starts to fall in so that there would be similar revenue, or is there a big drop off or increase?
Well, there's not a lot of experience with this model, and I think there's some questions about the model right now, but generally speaking, the revenue actually decreases over time. There's roughly a 0.5% decrease in output of electrical generation per year in the projects. So, and Dan, correct me if I say something wrong here, but generally there's a 0.5% drop. So in 15 years, the project could have, roughly 7.5% less generating capacity. Now that might be offset by higher electric rates perhaps, but generally speaking, there'd be a small decline in the value from year 1 to year 15 as far as full taxation.
Okay. I'm just curious how that, played into the totals.
Yeah, and I think they're still fiddling with the model. The model's a bit of a black box, at least from my standpoint. But generally speaking, it's based on revenue, and I think it's fair to say that the amount of electricity generated would decline a small amount each year.
Okay.
Now they might repower. I mean, there's a bunch of variables there, but just generally speaking, they might repower the more efficient panel in 15 years too, and get back up to capacity if it makes economic sense.
Right.
There's a lot of variables.
Dwight, this is Ken.
I can.
The pilot agreement is payment in lieu of taxes to, it's there to help the solar company get off the ground and be profitable quicker, right?
Well, I think I think that's the underlying rationale behind it. Again,
Boiling
with
it down.
with the new methodology for full assessed value, there's the gap between full assessed value and the pilots, I think, is a bit smaller than they would have been depending on how the individual assessor was doing the valuation. But I think that was the rationale to some extent, was encouraging development of renewable energy by having a reduced tax rate.
Okay, and then,
Now,
go ahead.
And I guess also to point out, there are some other tax adjustments that get made because depending where the project is. Now, this is not in an ag district, so maybe it doesn't apply here, but as I recall, but if the project is in an ag district and has an ag exemption, the ag exemption goes away for the underlying land. So there's actually an increase in the taxable value of the underlying land in addition to the pilot. And also just a caveat that the special district taxes are not part of the pilot. So like the fire department, if the fire department's getting ad valorem tax, that's still based on full assessed value.
Okay, and tagging on the back of that, you mentioned that sometimes that these pilots can be, or I guess this would be the host agreement. The host agreements can be worked out for more than 15 years. If for anything more than 15 years, like say a 20-year agreement or something like that, is that in the best interest at that point? Does that benefit the town, or does it benefit the town more to have it go back in the tax rolls after the 15 years?
That's kind of there's some competing interests there. So in one sense, if you have 20 years, you have an assured amount of revenue for 20 years instead of 15. So you'll know what you're getting. I think there's usually an inflation factor figured in. So you have some certainty, you can manage your budgets accordingly. The big unknown is, what is the full assessed value going to be in 15 or 20 years, and the comparative assessed value between year 15 and 20. And I think that's a little more difficult to predict where it would end up. So, the benefit is, I think, certainty in revenue. So if you think it's a fair revenue amount to begin with, there's one school of thought that says, well, lock it in. On the other hand, if you think it might, have a higher revenue, come year 15 because of the full taxation, town might, it may be ahead from a revenue standpoint because of that. The project probably wouldn't go away because generally once you invest your capital in these, there's not much incentive to decommission it because you've sunk your cost, you got your permit, you just let it generate electricity, and you do your maintenance, but that's a relatively small part of the overall cost. So it's kind of locking in. I think the benefit would be locking in the rate for a longer period, and you know what you're getting from a revenue standpoint.
That's also true for us as a developer too, that it's certainty for that.
Oh yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
As Dwight was mentioning earlier, there is now a standard assessment model in the state. It's now under moratorium. And so since solar has been possible to develop in New York State since 2016, there's really never been a vote to go to say, how do you actually assess solar? So pilots are, and those community agreements are the way to do that. Give us a certainty that we need to go and get the finance to build the project. Without the pilot, it's nearly impossible to do that. So Allegheny County IDA, this will be, I think, their 15th pilot. And we, for our New York Rushford project, on Bodock Road, that was their second or third pilot. The form is still the same as it was 3 years ago. Same pilot, same host community agreement. And I think they're sticking with that 15-year term. I don't think they'll change that to anything else, 20 or so.
Is this the same as what you guys did for the project over in Jasper, Shrewsbury?
Shrewsbury is a different county, but it's similar to it. But this would be, or New York, Rushford, our project in Rushford, roughly same size project. It's the same, same pilot. You know,
And I think there's probably another scenario that very well could happen, and Dan, you might have a thought on this too, is at year 15, you renegotiate a new pilot, as opposed to go to full taxation. That's probably scenario C or D or whatever.
But no, yeah, I'm not sure if ideas can do that, but it's a question for much later down the road. It's not for issue of the project already being built. I'm not sure if that would be possible, but we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Is it for on all parties? So.
Dan, what are you proposing for the pilot? When you met with the FDA?
Oh, so the pilot, and we just had our first meeting with them this morning where they accepted the application and set hearing. So the standard IDA pilot is $2,500 per megawatt, and that's split on a pro rata share based on the town's taxes, how the tax rates split for the town. I believe that's 12%, and then there's the majority that goes to the school district. So the total between the host community agreement and the pilot will be $5,000 per megawatt, with the town receiving more than half of that.
So Dwight, is that your understanding? I thought we got 20% of the pilot.
I guess I don't know what your particular percentage of the pilot is. It depends on the relative rates among the county and the school districts involved, but typically like the pilot is 10 to 20. And then you would also be getting the host.
I can't remember offhand what it is, but it would be clear on what the how the tax bills are, how the pro rata split is for each jurisdiction.
Right. Yeah. I've seen it as high as, close to 20% for a town, and I've seen it as low as 10. This varies from county to county. So it's kind of an individual situation. Also depends on the school district involved too.
Figure 15, you say.
Yeah, but with a $5,000 over, with a total 5,000, and if you start with 2,500 on the host, I mean, you're going to probably be looking at, close to, 60% or so overall, which is.
Well, if it's 20%, we'd be getting 500, so we'd be at 3,000 per megawatt.
27.59.
Yeah.
33.
Noticed in some of the materials that we received recently from our other solar project, and this may be based on the scale of the project, but the IDA would also be receiving, I can't remember the term, but it was an administrative fee or something that the developer was paying them. Is that anything that comes into play here, or is it?
There is a fee to the IDA that we pay, and that's for I believe it's 1% of the capital cost of the project. Yeah. That goes to the IDA. Yeah. And that helps them fund other economic development programs in the county. They've done a lot of work on that, a lot of hard work, and really commend them for that.
Can I ask what the capital value is on this project? I know they stated what it is for the Northland project.
I'd have to go into the pilot application, and I don't have any connection on my phone here, but I don't want to give a wrong figure, but it's in our application, which is available on the IDA's website.
So Dwight, you're recommending that we approve this HCA?
Yeah, I think, I think it's a deal that's consistent with what the county has been working out with some of the other developers. I think the percentage to the town is fair. And I think the terms of the agreement, I think are solid. They're similar to other agreements. And I think we've added in, you know, a couple items that we've had in some other host agreements around notice and such that Dan's agreed to. So I think it's a solid agreement.
Okay, do we have any more questions from the board?
I just thought of this as we were talking. I know with the much larger project that we're talking about, there are some benefits before this takes effect, because this takes effect at the completion of construction, if I understand correctly. Are there any of those type of benefits with a project of this scale, or is this pretty much?
Aside from the intervenor funds.
Right.
No, community solar is a different type of project than the large utility scale projects.
Okay.
The host community agreement and the pilot together are the total sum there.
Okay.
I want to make one comment. I need to chastise you publicly.
For what?
Because we've had a hard time getting a payment out of you for
Oh, I'm sorry,
our
yes,
consultants.
yeah.
And that's gone on for months. And I know you're not personally responsible, but I'm gonna pass it along. And I'm just wondering, are we gonna have problems with you guys getting these annual payments?
No,
You promise?
yes, I do promise that. And I can verify that that is being sent out.
We've heard that before.
Is that being dealt with internally?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was offered quite soon.
Well, it's on its way.
Duly noted.
Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, I kept working on it though, so I had good faith in it, so.
If there are no other comments, I move that we accept this host community agreement at the $2,500 amount, 15 years. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? No discussion?
I think we did.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so that takes care of that. Now, do we have anything else we have to do, Dwight, on Delaware tonight?
No,
Okay,
I'm just curious, obviously this stuff's moving forward. Do you guys have a current timeline in mind?
Well, I think we need to post the decommissioning bond. We will be starting to get things ready to slate this for construction. It could be as early as late fall, around October, but I think we'd rather prefer to wait until the spring. So we can catch the budget. I'll get an update on that as soon as I can. If we can fit it into construction this year. I know our construction managers that graduated from Alfred State Construction Management really want to get back here and build this. So I'll hopefully have an update for you.
Just curious.
Within a month.
How soon are we not with the trees?
That's right, yep, and we'll work with you on that. We'll be in touch about that.
All right.
okay, we are good to go. We're finished with Delaware for tonight. You're good?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, thanks for
Thank
coming.
you very much.
Thanks for
Thanks
being
for
patient.
taking your beating.
And it's good to see everyone too. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
In person.
Thanks for coming, Dave.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Take care.
Now, Dwight, our next issue is Northland Power. We've got this document here. Everybody's got a copy. Memorandum having to do with the meeting on the 22nd.
Yep.
If you want to just walk us through this
Sure.
letter from Labella and tell us what it's all about, and what we need to do.
yeah, so let's take a step back. So Northland Power, I guess first of all, is moving forward with the process, the pre-application part of the 94C process that is required before they submit their application. Now, they were awarded NYSERDA funding for renewable energy credit. And I see Ann Whaling's on the line, so Ann, correct me on this part, obviously, if I misspeak, but the project got awarded NYSERDA funding for renewable energy credits. So my guess is that's part of the last piece of their financial puzzle for the making the project work. And so they're proceeding with the required pre-application meetings and consultations with the town and any other agency that would otherwise have jurisdiction if 94C didn't exist. So if this were a project going before the town board for approval, it would need a special permit. So they're required to meet with the town board at least 60 days before putting their application in to review a whole host of things. There's a particular focus on compliance with the local zoning laws and other substantive laws. There's also supposed to be consultation with like emergency response and highway, both town, county, and state. And so the regulations for 94C actually describe what the scope of these meetings is supposed to be, who's required to participate, who's encouraged to participate, and the timing of it. I guess also, as you know, there's also an open house that Northland is doing the same evening as this meeting. And that's also a requirement of the 94C, is that there be a public input session. There's certain notice requirements for that I assume Ann has met already or will be meeting soon. And so that's available open to the public. So there's really two requirements that pre-application meetings for the town. One is this public forum, and another is meeting actually the requirement is with the executive of the town. So the minimum requirement is meeting with Dan. But to be effective, it's good to have like key folks there, as well as your legal and engineering team. So Labella's participating. I'll be there. Sean Grasby is going to be there. And so what Labella put together, so Ann's team put together an agenda for the meeting. Kathy Spencer and Labella, I think their memo, I think, enhances, I think, some of the things that they like to see related to the topics that are on the agenda, a little more specifics, if the information is available. And so that's what their memo reflects. I think it's something that Labella likes to do. I think it's effective in helping to establish, here's what the town would like to see as far as some of the detail that's required to be discussed at these meetings. Again, a lot of the emphasis is on compliance with the local zoning laws. The applicants, Northland's required to comply with the local zoning laws unless they feel a particular law is unreasonably burdensome. And if they have identified some portion of your local law that is unreasonably burdensome, that there's supposed to be a discussion about that at this meeting and how they've attempted to comply. Back in February, Northland sent us a letter asking that did their assessment of the local zoning law compliance that they saw for the project at this point. A couple issues they raised. We responded in early April, I think that was the timing with that. And so I think that letter will probably be a topic of discussion as well with respect to certain issues and interpretation of the local law. So that's the objective of the meeting. I think from a town strategy standpoint, in my I take on the 94C process, I see the pre-application meetings and discussions, and perhaps there'll be follow-up discussions to this initial one too, if we're trying to work out some issues where maybe there's a local law compliance challenge, but there might be ways to work it out. I see the pre-application process as actually being the most effective way for the town to influence the project, because once the application goes in, it's kind of locked in, but here we have an opportunity to, maybe work out some gray areas in the local law where there might be a compliance issue. It's I think easier to negotiate and work it out mutually between the applicant and the town. In some ways, that where it can be mutually beneficial, where there's still substantial compliance with the law, but maybe the issues that are a concern to the developer are addressed in an economical manner that work for the project as well as the town. So I think it's kind of, I think the town's and the developer's best opportunity to kind of work out, issues that are, might be challenging within the construct of the local law.
And do you have anything you want to say regarding this upcoming meeting on the 22nd at 10 a.m.?
Well, first, I appreciate the opportunity to get the conversation going. And we do really want to talk about the local law letter. I think it's going to be important to go over, the areas where we have questions and concerns. Is it possible to get a copy of Labella's comments or for somebody to maybe summarize them if there's additional information that we can bring so that we have it on hand to satisfy this?
Actually, we were gonna, after discussing it tonight, we were gonna send it to you tomorrow.
Perfect. Thanks.
So,
That'll be great.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton to speak to particularly. I
would kind of frame it as it's just more detail around the topics themselves. I mean, I think that would be kind of the way to describe the content of the memo.
I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing in the memo that I was curious if you're ready to do at that open house is bringing in proposed maps of the layout.
Yeah, we'd like to share those ahead of the meeting with you guys if you'd like to see them. Rather than, you having to view them in public too. That's another thing that we'd hope to share, I think, at the local law meeting. But if you're not all going to be there, I'm happy to provide those to you ahead of time.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, or if you want to have, I mean, I don't know if you can really have like a whole separate viewing of the open house, because then it sort of constitutes a meeting. But you're certainly welcome to go in early if you happen to be walking by.
Would it be possible to have a copy of those either sent down or emailed over? Or?
As long as, I mean, they're going to be public at the meeting anyway. So as long as everybody understands it's a draft, this is not our final engineering, and it won't be what we're submitting necessarily for our application because we haven't completed the surveys yet. So some things are still probably subject to shift. And of course, without having had any discussion with the town about any concerns about setbacks, things will also probably shift. But we're happy to provide what we have for you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick, the 10 a.m. session, only board members are expected, but it's a public meeting we'll have to post for, won't
Yeah, you can't.
we? Yeah.
I don't think the local law meeting is a public meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, the 10 a.m. meeting, under Dwight's recommendation, we were only having 2 people from the board there.
Right, and then it's not a public meeting.
Yeah.
And then the open house is for
Remember
everybody.
that now, okay.
Correct.
House is public.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, you could have the whole board there. I mean, that is an option, but it then becomes a public meeting, like a workshop. You have to advertise it and it's open to the public. The challenge, and some towns have done that. The challenge with that is it really is a working meeting and there's a lot to cover. So, that's kind of the trade-off with having the whole board and it being a public meeting versus having 2 board members in it not being a public meeting. So
Yeah, the challenge of restricting public comment is one that I wouldn't want to undertake, but you guys run a pretty tight ship, so I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to exclude anybody. I'm happy to do it if that's the way you want to do it, but it would be nice to know in advance if you're going to make that into a public meeting, because we might choose to approach it differently.
Are we okay? I mean, we talked about having just the 2 people there. Are we okay with that, or we're not okay with it?
I just think the challenge is there's no time for any additional feedback or communication amongst us.
Right.
So the board members that aren't there are gonna be seeing the same thing the public is with no specific time. to
And
address
with those
concerns.
much depth.
Right,
Well, I'm okay. We can make it a public meeting and have the whole board there. This is the 10 o'clock meeting on the 22nd.
right. I mean, I think the fact that it's in the morning would greatly decrease the public involvement, potentially. And I think we could, I'm pretty sure we're allowed to set a time limit on public comment, right?
Well, I would encourage no public comment.
Mhm.
Right.
I mean,
So people can.
they could observe. I mean, you don't have to have public comment at a public meeting.
Right, right.
I mean, there's a lot to cover and a lot of detail. And if you do make it public, I would encourage that it's observation only.
Okay, and it would be in person only because it's at the fire hall.
Is it the fire?
Yeah.
So, the 10 a.m. one is noted as being here, isn't it? Town hall, or maybe that's just the header, but.
Because the idea was also to have like the fire department there, and the county will probably be there.
The county,
as well
yeah,
as
the county will be there.
so.
So do you want to do it as a board meeting?
I don't know, I see advantages and disadvantages both ways. If it's a town meeting, then everything we say is public record. There's
Yeah.
not really room for open discussion.
Would you like me to screen share the plan with you now so you have time to digest it a little bit? Are we televising?
Mhm.
We are, but you've got a very small audience here.
I mean, would that help? Would that make you more comfortable?
What is your question again, Ann?
She could share.
Would you like me to
pictures.
share a screenshot of the plans right now so you could take a look at it and maybe discuss any questions?
Or you can just send it. I think.
I'll just send it to you. You'll have
send
a
it
chance
to
to look
us.
at it. Yeah,
Now, here's another thing that Ken just brought up. At some point, it seems like it'd be appropriate to take a field trip. For the board to take a field trip, just to see what this is all about.
I think if we have the map of it, plan of it, we could all go up on our own and look at things. Be pretty easy to.
I'll be in town as well the day after the meeting if you'd like to take individual sort of site visits, and my engineer will be in town as well. We might be able to work something out if you'd like to set that. You can go in pairs and then it's not really a meeting.
That's great.
Otherwise, the whole
We've
town
done
comes
that at
along.
prior projects before and just taken the board members around individually as they had time.
And then you all get onto the ark 2 by 2 at a time. So
Oh, man.
Is that something we would like to do?
That might be nice.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
depends on the plan.
Okay, let's tentatively plan on doing that. If you have some personnel the day after.
Okay, do you want to have Labella participate with that? Or are you happy to just have your own opinions rule the day with my engineer?
What do you think? We're just
I
winging.
think it's just kind of.
I mean, I think
take
if
a look.
Labella is available, I think it doesn't hurt for them to walk the site, because I know when I've done these before, I like to drive the sites myself, and you do get a much better feel for what you're looking at.
They're
So,
willing to come out for it.
but on the other hand, we'll get other opportunities to do that too, so it doesn't have to be with.
Sure. Yeah, we can do the dashboard tour really anytime.
Yeah.
Getting pretty good at it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if you want to go ahead, what time is the earliest that you'd like to go?
What time?
I get up early.
9 o'clock would be the earliest for me.
What time are we thinking?
I mean, I could go.
This is on Thursday. the
Be
23rd.
Thursday,
I'm
23rd.
staying in Corning, so I have an hour drive before I get there. And I am an early
Okay.
riser. I can probably be there at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, 8 would be
7
fine
o'clock
for
is
me.
close, but 8 I can do.
We can do it.
I can do it.
So you two at 8?
Sure. That's the next morning. That's
Yeah.
the 23rd,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wants to go at 9?
go 800.
Conference. It's
Wendy, do you wanna go?
but
I can't, then.
Okay.
And what do you think? It's gonna take half an hour?
Yeah, I don't really
Hour?
think it's gonna, see, it depends how talky y'all are. Longer than others. I think if we drive and start up at the top of Route 12, and look at the northern part of the project, come around down below, and then stop in the middle at the home plate parcel, then we go on up to back to the top of McAndrews. Yeah, it'd probably take at least a half an hour, I'd say.
Yeah.
And where are we meeting?
We can meet, do you know where the Lloyd property is?
Sure.
Mr. Lloyd, who just passed, I think we can, he's got a pretty
Yeah.
big driveway set up.
Oh, man, I didn't know
Yeah, I'm
that.
sorry. I'm sorry. It was
Right.
pretty recent.
Shoot.
He's been sick for a while. So he's one of our property owners, and we can probably meet in his driveway or park on the side of the road there. We've done that in the past. I'll talk with Tim about that.
Yeah, you've got all those new driveways we can pull into
I'm
on
sorry.
the other side. I was just saying, you got all those new culverts we could park on the other side of the road too.
Oh, okay.
So what time are you guys?
So we're on at 8.
8 o'clock?
Yeah.
And we're gonna meet tentatively at Gary Lloyd's.
Okay, how about 9 o'clock then for me? Ann, would that work? Meet at the same place, Gary Lloyd's?
Yeah.
Okay,
Do we need a 10 o'clock also? How many people do we have coming?
so we'll have, Jen and I will be there at 9. And Matthew and Ken will be there at 8.
Okay,
You
no
wanna go?
problem.
23rd.
If you want me to, I can.
Do you want to?
It don't matter to me. I know about where it is. I can do that.
If you want to, yeah. Or at 8 or 9, whichever. Okay,
And if we need to do, 8:39 or 8:45, 9:15, we're flexible. We can do what needs to be done if there's more people. It's all good.
So did we decide to keep the 10 AM? 2 people?
I'm not comfortable with that. I think that sets up 2 people who know more than the whole board knows. And we're always gonna be looking to you to, well, what,
So what about this as a compromise? Would it make sense or would it be legit to record this session? It's an hour and a half, right? And then pass it along to those of you that can't be there.
or do you want to go instead of me?
Or you could go instead of me, that would be fine too.
I don't know that I'm the most knowledgeable person to go, and I think that's why I was feeling the need to participate in the meetings to become more knowledgeable. I'm happy to watch the video if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky.
There's so much to it, and
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive project.
it is,
It's all new.
and I think we should all know have the same fund of knowledge. But
What's your schedule like for that day? Would it be possible to kind of do it like we're doing the tours? And
I don't
have,
think so.
like,
That's
have you
gonna-
guys leave and have us come in?
I don't think so.
Chunk it up twice.
What is it, an extra hour and a half on top?
You have 10 days before.
I don't think we want to do it twice.
no, it's kind of prescribed. it sounds like.
It'll be, I would say probably at least 2 or 3 hours. I mean, each project a little different on how long these go, but you know,
Let's make a decision. Are
I've
we
never
gonna-
been,
We're gonna stay with 2 or do we want a full board?
Well,
Bravo.
you don't have to discuss, you don't have to decide tonight.
This is a Wednesday. If it's going to 3 hours, I will not be there. I'll be at the county room.
Right.
Okay, so you wouldn't be there to record the full.
Would there
board
be,
meeting.
what,
If it's only gonna be the morning session, just, I would have time.
right? And what's your schedule on that day? So obviously the morning, you've got the meeting.
The morning is that
primary
meeting, and we're scheduled to be at the venue to set up at about 3 o'clock. I have meetings that I can set or I don't have to. if I have to stay over the Friday to talk to the people from Alfred State, we'll all be fine with that. I want you all to be satisfied in whatever form that is. You know, I'm not gonna be heartbroken if you all show up, and I'm not gonna be heartbroken if we have to have question and answer with a couple different sessions either. But I don't know Jim Moscato's section, total availability. I think he's there overnight and he's there for the whole day in the meeting. So I would expect we'd have Jim and me and certainly my engineer that could all do it. So
I wondered, like, if we could come before the public meeting for, if we're, you know, if it was open for like an hour or something. That
I
those
think
that aren't there for the
that's not a
morning
bad
meeting.
idea either. Get a chance to walk through the whole exhibit section or whatever.
Yeah, and have a little bit of time for comment and question before. the
Personal
public-
questions and answers based
Yeah,
on
I
a little
mean-
more knowledge.
You don't have a full board meeting, but
Right.
so have two people, but then have an advance of the
Right.
open house.
Right,
That makes sense.
is that feasible?
Yep.
As long as
fine
there
with
are
that.
three of us there at the same time, we're right, we're okay.
Correct. Well, if Thea and I go to the morning, we wouldn't have to be there and you guys could stagger your appearance.
Right.
All right.
Is that feasible? Does that work for you, Ann?
Yeah, do you want to do it like at 2 o'clock or at 1 or, I mean, whatever works for you. We'll make it work. I just need a break to give everybody time to have lunch. But we
Yeah,
can
what
always-
time is the evening meeting?
We start at 4, 4 to
Start at
7.
4?
Yep.
2:30?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we're going to be there, like I said, anyway, setting up. So we'll just get there a little, you know, maybe we can just set up right after the morning meeting and then it'll be all ready for you. Doesn't take
Right,
very
and
long.
I think it could be informal, just having opportunity to view and talk.
I mean, 3 people can be in an art gallery and
Certainly,
not be a board meeting,
certainly.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you're not.
As long as you're not conducting public business, so.
Right,
Yeah, so you can be there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that might work well.
Okay, so we'll stay with 2 in the morning and then we'll do the 2:30, did we say?
2:30.
Yeah, 2:30 is fine.
Yeah,
Okay, good. Okay. Okay, what else do we have to do on this tonight?
I think that's it. I mean, we've talked about, you know, I think the scope of the meeting. So, where you have the agenda there and that lays it out, you know, as far as what the topics of discussion are. Often Jim Moscato might, you know, mention if there are particular issues that they expect some deep discussion on beforehand. And if Jim shares those with me, I'll forward those along too, so the board can think about it.
Yeah, I think our topics of concern are making sure we understand the setbacks, the application of the prime soils and soils of statewide importance clause in your town code, just for our coverage and for stuff like that. We want to understand, there had been some discussion about setbacks along McAndrews Road, I think, and something about a snow fence at the open house, which we had before online. It was difficult to determine exactly what was, like, I was not very conversational that night. My camera wasn't working right. I couldn't see people. So that kind of a discussion I think would be helpful. We're going to want to talk about the subdivision law. We have to make a subdivision for the substation. So there's, you know, some conversation that's going to have to happen around that.
Can Jim kind of elaborate on that particular issue? Because I don't think that came up in his memo.
Well, we didn't know about it.
Okay,
So
okay, all right.
I can give you a quick overview right now. And what it is that the woman who owns the land where we are hoping to host the substation is being extremely careful about how much land she wants to part with. And so we are trying very hard to restrict to the minimum amount possible, to the point where she wants us to do a deeded access way, which NYSEG will agree to the substation, because they're going to keep the substation forever. But you all have 150-foot frontage rule for subdivisions. So I don't know how deep that 150-foot frontage has to go, but for us to purchase the access road with 150 feet of frontage, and I think in 150 by 100, say, And then a 20-foot access road back to the area where the substation is going to be, which is a 300 by 300 foot parcel. It changes the footprint of the substation land from 2.75 acres, which is apparently acceptable to her, which is just a square 300 by 300, to and adds an extra like acre and a quarter, I think, brings it almost up to 4 acres. And that has not yet been acceptable to her. So I'm trying to figure out a way to make it work. She's fine with the deeded access road, and she's fine with the subdivision for the substation, which will be deeded over to the utility and exist with them forever. But she isn't fine with us selling any more of that land and turning it over to the utility. So it's our problem certainly to manage, but that's where the discussion is going to center.
Okay, I'll take a look at some of the local law.
Yeah, take a look, and I'll shoot you I'll bring the plans with the substation stuff. But before I go talk to her lawyer and make the final asks, I need to just have an idea of what's acceptable to the town. That's all.
We use state subdivision laws. Our zoning doesn't address subdivision. We go by the state subdivision laws. If that makes it any easier or harder for you.
That saves me time, Jan. Thank you.
We looked at a subdivision law a few years ago. Decided
Yeah, and
against
we
it.
never did anything with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we do have a setback of 85 feet back from the center of the road for any new construction. So I don't-
Okay. So we can go over that. That's probably our, just one more thing to add to the list. And
Yeah, I think the thing I'm most interested to see is the map showing the planned footprint and how that will impact the current usage of some of the farmland up near the McAndrews Road.
Yep, absolutely. As you all know, it's the open flat areas that are the best for solar, unfortunately. But, with a comparative look at what's actually being farmed, I don't know, I think there's only a couple of parcels that are being hayed right now in the whole project area, but every bit counts, right?
Okay, we're good to go then, as far as Northland is concerned tonight?
I have a suggestion, if I might.
Yeah, Fred, sure.
There seems to be a gap in terms of explaining to the public what this 94C process is. And I think just more information so that the public and the nearby people who are going to see this huge project don't get the idea that they didn't have input. I don't think people really understand that the structure of how this unfolds.
I'd be happy to do an educational session if you thought that would be helpful to the town. I mean,
just some statements that we can get into the Alfred Sun and kind of shelling the beaches of public opinion. And all of these meetings that are going to be occurring, there's going to be some people that are going to say they think they got railroaded and that there wasn't the normal public comment and public opinion and ability of the public to guide things. So we need to guard against that. That's just something that I feel coming. And it can be avoided with just a proper amount of public education as to what 94C is, how it evolved, and the fact that there is environmental review occurring, but it's at the state level. It's not here locally.
I mean, I have a presentation I've given almost on that very topic a number of times, so I wouldn't need to do much to prepare for it. So if there was a forum that you thought would work, that would get information, in fact, some of them have been recorded.
Yeah, and put it on our webpage.
Oh, I can, maybe I'll find the best one of those. I think the one closest to what you're describing, I can forward it there. You can take a look and see if you think it'll help.
I think it'll go a long way.
Yeah, because it's something that both Kathy Spencer and I have done a number of times. So yeah, let me find that and I'll forward it over. You can take a look and you're welcome to use it. It's a public.
Now, is it something also that you might have in text form, Dwight, that could be?
I have
put,
PowerPoint slides, but yeah.
I was thinking something in text form that could be put in the local paper or the
Oh.
online, something like that.
We have
If,
a pretty good handout that we got from an attorney that does explain the process, and it's a little more succinct, maybe for public forum.
Mhm.
I don't know. I can show it to you. We're handing them out at the project.
Yeah, anything like that that we might be able to put out in print form or online, in addition to the video, would all help.
Yeah, let me forward along what I have. And I know, and Jim Moscato's done some stuff like that too. So
Yeah. It's all the same stuff.
he's done it many times.
Okay,
So,
good.
and then
Anything
we could
else?
figure a way to get the word out.
We good on Northland for tonight?
Real quick, the term sheet that I think.
I think
Ian
we're
sent out,
recommended to keep that confidential at this
I
point.
would, yes, I would agree.
That was my question. I'm gonna go ahead and do that then.
Okay, thank you, Dwight, and thank you, Ann, for logging on. Dwight, you can stay because we might need you for something, but and you
Okay.
can stay too, Ann.
Thank you very much. Have a good
I didn't mean
evening.
to throw you out.
No, it's fine. You did it very nicely. Dwight, you can stay. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay. We're not gonna get out by 9.
I think we already missed that.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
You didn't get that time machine working yet? It's,
Okay, we do have to look at the abstracts. So let's take a quick look at those. The general, we have not much, because we had a late meeting last month. And so is there a motion to pay these bills in the general? I'll move that we do. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, and the highway. So we've got tires for the 2021 pickup. Pipe,
Oh,
Let's do the last very long.
It's good.
well, yeah, they don't need it. They're on the street tires.
how many miles did you get on?
30,000. I don't even know, maybe 20,000. And I used them all winter long, 1,000. So.
Yeah. Is, if there are no questions, is there a motion to pay the highway bills?
So, okay.
Move second, I'll second it, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we've got the town clerk's monthly report in there, you can look at your leisure. Do we have any correspondence, Jan, that we have to deal with?
A notice from Univera that the premium is going up 15.27%.
Great.
You'll have a notice from the Department of Taxation and Finance about our state equalization rate. It has dropped to 73%. We have the information that Bob provided on the CHIPS allocation and the additional money that the state is providing for potholes. So, Bob, you figured the total will be getting chips and the pothole is $227,781.92. Plus we have a carry a rollover from last year.
That's a lot.
You have to do a budget amendment, yeah.
Not till the money, yeah, not to spend it, because we can't get it to spend it.
Well, that's good news.
And then, I didn't know if you got the building permit fee for the mace, I know Ken and Matthew wanted to select, that's the one.
Okay.
Speaking of that, did we get somebody building a house or something? The one building permit?
Oh, that was for generator. And installed up on, Kenny, just be Casey.
Yeah.
And I think that's it for correspondence. Other than what I I sent you.
A larger generator.
Oh, we just saw the feed, we were like, oh.
Okay, supervisors report, we've covered everything that I had. I did have one thing as a question. Apparently there's state or federal money available for charging stations. There was something in the, we get that. Is somebody on the board willing to investigate how to get that?
It's pretty easy. You go on NYSERDA's website and they have a whole thing of information about it. I copied it out for you some a couple years ago when it first came out.
Is that something we want to do? Seems like it'd be a good idea to have some charging stations.
Where would you put them?
I don't know. Well,
It's gotta be somewhere where you're gonna be parked for an extended period. We don't have any grocery stores. We don't have a Walmart. We don't have any
Curtis
stores where you're gonna
Corky
stay.
talked about putting one in Tinkertown.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only place that I could see making sense would be near the bus stop if the whole project goes forward. but-
So some put them in at the municipal building itself. I know some towns.
And our new parking lot.
There you go.
But what are they gonna, I mean,
What they can do is charge you.
who's gonna, right?
Who's
Who's gonna,
Go visit Peter, I guess.
who's gonna use them? I mean, are they gonna get used, right? Because just saying we have them, but they're not gonna get used is,
It's one of the, I think it's one of those build it and they will come things. Like it's to encourage
I
EVs.
started looking at it a little bit when we were searching for ways to spend our solar money. And yeah, there's a little bit of that idea behind it, but
The only other place I could think of that would possibly work would be to talk to Peter Stahl and maybe have one in his parking lot. So imagine his customer base.
How about the mobile station?
They don't really have any space for extra parking.
How about the old shorts?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened
He's
to
going
old
now.
Curtis, because he was gonna put one in.
Right.
I was thinking about it. You have to be realistic on it though, is you want to put these charging stations in a place where it's not a quick 5-minute in and out of the store, grab what you need.
How long is it? Like 50 minutes?
It can be up.
Well,
to
even
an
if you want
hour
to half
it's
charge, I
super
mean,
fast.
whatever, I mean, you,
Okay, so it's not the
You
set
wanna-
amount.
yeah, the option to put them
Depends on
in.
how much power you put into
Yeah.
each one of those
Yeah.
chargers.
If those are the I don't know if those are like the DC chargers, which are kind of a rapid charge, but yeah, you're still looking at, for a 80% charge is still like an hour or something, I think.
Yeah. You want to put them in to help local business and boost that and be a convenience to people, but you have to do it in a location where they're going to be there already for at least 10 to 15 minutes. So
What are those
like if
places?
you had a grocery store that they're going to have a half hour, an hour shopping trip, that makes sense.
So Dollar General.
Dollar General is a 5-minute usually. Hardware is 5 minutes. I don't know how long you shop at Dollar General, buddy.
I do all my shopping there.
Wasn't the village gonna put some in? Wasn't the village gonna put some
They
in?
were putting four in
Where?
on Main Street.
Well, there's their perfect question.
like
I think that what he said about,
parking spots.
Main Street.
what you said about stall, the bicycle lane. I mean, people go in there, I'll bet you shoppers go in there and looking around, and start talking about the companies and bicycles, I bet you at least an hour minimum.
I think he would be all about it.
He'd be all about it.
Yeah,
That
Yeah.
probably is the best business to consider also, and he has a large enough parking area.
well, I think we should look into it. I mean, there may be,
I was gonna ask that.
there may be recommendations, where if you get a grant, because I'm assuming we're not gonna pay for this ourselves, to get a grant to put these
Get a
in.
grant for
They
them.
make recommendations as to, these are most desirable, most logical places.
Why doesn't the electric company put them in? Aren't they the revenue, isn't it their money that they're benefiting from? They put streetlights up, why don't they just put
I don't
charging
know.
stations?
Do not
I
know.
think they
Why
do all
should it be
about
our
it.
responsibility?
Well, at any rate,
All right.
would somebody like to spearhead this?
I'll take it on, because I've
You'll
got
take it on?
I've got an EV on order, so it's in
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. What do you have on order?
a Lightning. Ford Lightning.
Oh, that's the truck,
Yeah.
the 150?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Let's see if it happens.
It'll be here in what, 2.5 years?
Just in time for the solar plug-in.
Yeah.
Good, okay, thanks for taking that on. I think that's good. That's the only thing. Is there anything else to come before the board tonight?
Executive session?
I want to do a real quick one. Do we need to? I don't know. I just want to update the board on. So, if there's nothing else, I move that we go into executive session
For,
for personnel matters.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
Is there a second to that motion?
second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, we're in executive session.
Take care all. Oh, can't be a country store. Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Session, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, so we're back to the general. Is there anything else we have to do tonight?
Did we not get a report this month?
We did not.
Any idea why? This the first time they've done that?
As far as I know, I'll get hold of her tomorrow and find out what's going on. I don't know if it snuck up on her because our meeting was so late last month. I don't know. I can't answer for her.
By the way, I talked to the town clerk for Belfast today, and they have BBS. And the woman they had is Samantha, she said, and she said, we've just always been happy with them, with her. And Justin, gets involved when it needs to, but she was very positive. And I'm thinking, we've got Christina, and
I would call it mediocre.
yeah, it's been less.
I mean, I don't know enough to question any numbers or anything, but.
So I don't know, if we should.
See, that's another one. Do I bug her and say, where's our report? I mean.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
Doesn't have to.
And I didn't.
That's
she
the
would've
whole
already
point of
left
outsourcing-
by the time
outsourcing
we
it
texted
to
them.
non-experts.
Sure. No, but so she would have been there anyway, but, I would definitely text her, email her tomorrow and say, send it to you as soon as I get it.
Maybe we have a little talk with Justin and say, maybe we need another rep on our account.
Yeah, I mean, maybe she can switch with Bob or yes.
Maybe they're just always happy over there.
Give us Sam, we'll give you Christina.
Okay, anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved. Is there a second? It's been a long night.
And people start to think, yeah, we need more chairs.
They issued a CO. Oh. He's good. He's good. Okay. Yeah. It was misworded. It said issues
Yes,
instead
did-
of issue.